Some of you might well ask, why am I in Greece? Why am I standing at the Piraeus harbor, famous harbor from ancient Athens? Some of you might well say that my travel schedule makes no sense. Indeed, it doesn't make sense. I have made a series of perfectly rational decisions for entirely emotional reasons, and those decisions ended up with me being here in the Piraeus harbor in Greece. There's a lot of pressure on me to exhaustively research, to try any and every possible method to get the paperwork to live in the European Union, because my ex-wife, my daughter, and my divorce are going on within the European Union. So if I could become a resident in Greece, if I could, after about 5 years, become a citizen in Greece, that would be a possibility I felt I had to explore. And I was here on a 20-day trip exploring it. And you know what? It's hopeless. I think it probably is impossible, or if it's possible, it's just barely possible and not really worth doing. But I guess if I hadn't come here in person, if I hadn't sort of turned over every rock, then I wouldn't really know, or I wouldn't feel that I know to the same extent and with the same depth and the same gravity as actually coming here and, I don't know, getting my feet wet, getting my hands dirty, rolling up my sleeves, having the experience of living in Greece and looking into everything that would be involved becoming a Greek resident, Greek citizen, including, as you guys know, the difficulty of learning the language, the impossibility of doing anything in the universities here, by the way, the incredibly limited options I would have here in terms of career. Come and investigate and see for yourself. So I feel that with this trip to Greece, the last remote possibility of me making a residence in Europe work is now coming to an end. And indeed, I mean, there's a kind of strange parallel, because why was I in Taiwan before this? And I'm flying back to Taiwan after, by the way. I really feel like the trip to Taiwan, my current residency in Taiwan, proves the impossibility of anything positive coming out of Taiwan for me, at least in the long term. So I'm once again in the uncomfortable, dire, desperate situation of having nowhere to go but my own homeland, Canada. I've also exhausted every legal possibility of making progress in France with that divorce case. Hiring lawyers in France, hiring very expensive international lawyers that work back and forth between Canada and France, trying everything possible just to spend time with my daughter. And my ex-wife, her most brilliant technique is just not having her lawyers reply to emails. The French system is really deeply flawed. It relies on me having paperwork I can't possibly get access to. It basically relies on you having reasonable cooperation from the other party in order to get divorced. And if the other party just stalls and stonewalls and refuses to reply, and refuses to communicate, and refuses to give you the paperwork back, refuses to sign paperwork when you present them with paperwork, then the French process goes on forever. So it looks like the only way forward for me in my life is to live for several years consecutively in Canada, to try to file divorce paperwork in France from Canada. And although, you might say, well, that has some advantages. A Canadian court can issue a divorce. It can declare me a single man, but it can't dictate the details of a child sharing arrangement. It can't dictate the details of when I see my daughter on school holidays, or give me control over which school she's going to, which incidentally under French law I'm supposed to have. I'm supposed to be consulted about all important decisions made in her life, including when they move to a new city or a new country and when they enroll her in a new school. I'm supposed to be consulted and sign off on all these things. And absolutely nothing like that has happened since the divorce. So I came to Greece for a variety of reasons. But as I say, it's a series of rational decisions made out of a kind of emotional desperation, ultimately driven by my daughter. Those of you who have watched the YouTube channel for a long time will know, why am I learning Chinese? That also, it's a long story, ultimately has absolutely everything to do for my daughter, to do with my daughter. It's being done for my daughter. And yeah, there's part of you that says, well, if you can't make any progress legally and you can't make any progress in all these other ways you're trying, shouldn't you at some point give up and start living your life with yourself as the top priority. I mean, a lot of you guys don't know this, and it's hard to explain. The reason why I left Victoria and moved to Taiwan also has absolutely everything to do with my daughter. The visitation schedule I had dictated by the court in France made it impossible for me to attend university classes at the University of Victoria. So I was in effect forced to drop out of my university degree because of the arrangements to see my daughter dictated by the divorce and the settlement in France. And again, in my mind, I had to make a hard decision then. I was like, okay, am I going to stay in Victoria and attend university classes and burn my parental rights, lose the right to see my daughter by breaking this custody agreement? It's not, technically it's not even an agreement, it's one-sided. It's dictated by the court. It's not an agreement. I didn't agree to it. It was just dictated one-sidedly. Am I going to give that up so that I can finish my university degree and make progress academically in my career? Or, am I going to regard seeing my daughter as the top priority and drop out of university at UVic, at University of Victoria? And guess what decision I made? I made the decision to drop out of classes and make visiting my daughter, spending time with my daughter, the top priority in my life. I know that's not visible to you guys, because all you see is me sitting in an apartment recording YouTube videos talking about politics, and then to some extent you see bizarre situations like this. But all of these decisions and this completely surreal travel schedule, it has been directed by this overriding emotional priority, however you want to put it, that my daughter, and even my daughter's absence, still brings into my life.